welcome to week one of the Ppe Podcast. We'll be discussing everything from pricing to scams to stories in the market from each individuals around the world. I thought the first week it'd be no better than none other than Doug Stein, the authority in the glove market for so many of us, and someone who's created a lot of content over the last year. I made it interesting, I think. So I want to just jump right in with Doug and let him do a little introduction himself, how he got started.
Hey George, thanks so much for having me. I know we've got a little bit of a time difference across the pond, but I appreciate you staying up late to have a chat. And I'm thrilled and honored to be your first guest on your podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation. You know, I'm pretty shy, so getting in front of a camera is always kind of tough for me, as most people know. So.
Yeah, me too, always. so I want to talk about firstly who got you into PPE, because everyone's got the story of the first chap that introduced into the market.
Sure. Well, mine was pretty deliberate. I saw a need. I've been importing for about 2.5 decades. It's really all I've ever done. Prior to that, I lived in Asia for 10 years, kind of in a different life, running restaurants and nightclubs all throughout Asia and Australia and Africa. And so I spent a lot of time over there, and then I started my own fashion company here in the U.S. when I moved back in 2001, and I had a women's and a men's and a pet fashion company for about 16, 17 years. I sold it about 2 years ago, and it was kind of bittersweet, to be honest with you, George. I had run it passionately with a great group of people that had been with me for a long time. Like my creative director was with me since almost day one, my warehouse manager, my team in China, my customer service manager, all of them that were with me for, well over a decade, some of them 14, 15, 16 years. So it was really a tight-knit group. And we had done a lot in the fashion business for a small boutique company, but I started losing a grip on it about three or 4 years ago. It's just started moving too fast. Maybe I got too old. Regardless, we definitely lost an edge, and I fought for about 1.5 years to try to get that edge back.
Right.
And quite honestly, I probably should have given up before I finally did throw in the towel, but I took my entire life savings to try to save my company the last couple of years. And this comes from a place where, probably 7 years ago, I was offered an amazing amount of money to sell my company to a big group, and I passed it up because I thought I could grow it bigger. But just to show you, mistakes and rises and falls that you can have in your lifetime.
Sure.
I ended up putting my entire life savings back into the company to try to salvage it. And quite honestly, it really wasn't a salvage it for me. I had no idea I was going to tell all the people that had been with me all those years that it was over.
And this was a men's, women's fashion brand, baby clothes.
Yeah, I had a women's fashion line called Mad Style and a men's accessory line called Mad Man.
Right.
And we had a pet line called Mad Dog, and we had a home decor line called Mad House. And MAD was actually an acronym for Marta and Doug. My wife and I, we started the company in our basement in like 2004. So it was either, Marta and Doug for MAD or Mommy and Daddy. We started the company when my little girl was first born. So it was a really personal company, and we've grown it really, really well. We're pretty well known in the gift industry for what we did, and we're kind of trailblazers in a lot of ways with some of the new edgier fashion. But again, I fell asleep a little bit at the wheel. I got myself into debt, and I spent everything I had trying to drive us out of the ditch. And again, my son, probably gave me the wisest advice and said, stop doing this. It's okay to just walk away from it. And I couldn't do it. I ended up, losing pretty much everything. I sold the company for less than I had in debt. And so as a result, I had to file personal bankruptcy, which was, at 60 years old, was pretty humbling.
I bet, yeah.
It's not the first time I've been rich and broke, in the same calendar year.
But, so you made it all back though. You made it all back though, because I spoke to you, I think, 2 weeks ago, and you said it was, well, we don't want to get into the numbers too much, but it's a fair amount of gloves.
No, I never thought
it's a fair amount of gloves. So.
Yeah, listen, I've been blessed. I did an early podcast with a good friend of mine, Benno, and and it was called Rags to Riches, Rags to Riches, Rags. So I've had my share ever since I was a kid of growing businesses to a point where I thought it was going to be the end all, and then sabotaging at the 11th hour.
So is it
but
all,
this last
is
one,
it,
was
it's
17 years.
all part of the fun for you though? All part of the fun? Do you enjoy that sort of side of it? I mean, I
Yeah,
know it's...
listen, I'm a swing for the fence type of guy,
Sure.
and probably an ultimate, serial entrepreneur as far as, I like taking the risk. I like new adventures. I really love getting out and doing stuff, and I'm too much of a risk taker. But at my age now, at 62, I need to be careful. I don't know how many more of these slugfests I can deal with.
No.
But so I sold my company, and I was able to. Everybody in my company got a pretty soft landing. I was happy about that. And ended up, again, I sold it for less than I had debt. So ended up declaring personal bankruptcy. They took away the Jags, they took away the boats, they took away everything.
You got it back. You got your boat back.
But I pivoted pretty quickly. I pivoted pretty quickly because I kept my sourcing team in China. And, we started doing some sourcing for some of the bigger companies that I used to work with, like Caesars and Stein and the Container Store and Ace Hardware, and some of the catalog brands I used to do business with, like Colony Brands.
But what was this doing? Was this doing distributing clothes still?
Yes, I would do what I call key account items. And so, the Container Store might call up and say, look, we need a fourth quarter gift at the cash register. We'd like to do a travel poker set. Sure, how many you need? 60,000 of them. And, we want it, a special design. And so my team and I, we designed that, and we.
So literally sourcing.
Or the Colony Brands would call and say, look, we need 30,000 bow ties in a box, in a gift box with cufflinks that match the bow tie, and, that was the deal. Or RuPaul was opening in Caesars a couple of years back, and they needed like 80,000 stainless tumblers for the opening in their gift stores and everything, so we provided that. So I call that key account sourcing, where you're kind of looking for somebody that needs a lot of one thing. Mm-hmm. And I found that business to be, very good for us. And so that pivot after I sold my company kind of got me out of, my ditch, so to speak, and put us back on the road to mend. And then, of course, in the middle of, a year and a half into that, COVID hit. And so all of my business went on hold. Nobody, Container Store was closed, Ace Hardware was closed, nobody was buying anything out of catalogs, Caesars wasn't, even open. And so a lot of my projects that were in the works dried up. But because, I've always kind of been known in the small gift industry as somebody that can get stuff, people started calling me immediately. Can you get sanitizer? Can you get wipes? Can you get masks? Can you get gowns?
And what were you doing?
So
because I was confused about the business model. Were you sourcing, as in were you introducing people? Were you buying it and bringing it in, or were you buying it?
No, I was buying it and bringing it in. I've never been a broker, although I guess you could say in some degree I am a little bit. But no, I used my team in China and Vietnam. I kept those teams active. When I sold my company, the company that I sold it to didn't want them. And I was like, fantastic, I will keep them. And so I have a warehouse and an office and a team of 3 that have been with me for 17 years in Yiwu, China. And so they were right in the heat of battle for me. And
that was why it was such a shame. It was such a shame for us, because when we got started, well, I'll say me until recently. When I got started in PPE, I had to piece everything together: the suppliers, the logistics, the clients. I had no clients, So I think going into it with clients, mate, do you think that's partly one of the reasons you've done quite well at it?
Yeah, listen, a lot of people came to me, and so, and again, another reason why I'm ridiculously blessed is I have this woman that's been with me for 18 years, Susie Stevens, and I think some people know her because she just developed the PPE Network Supplier website, and she does all of our graphics, all of our branding, all of our logos and everything. And she is just amazing. And I would never be anywhere near this far along with PPE if it wasn't for her. But she has created the look and the feel of all of our brands and everything. And so we quickly were able to put together a stellar looking website and a really professional looking catalog. And that kind of got us across the finish line more than anything else. That showed a lot of credibility and we just got an enormous amount of orders because of that.
Would you say most of your business is gloves? Is it just gloves? Is it mostly just?
Yeah, so
because for me,
in the beginning, from February through probably May, it was the usual suspects, the things that got crazy and then kind of dissipated: masks, wipes, sanitizer, thermometers, gowns, all sorts of different levels. And then in May, it started moving into gloves. And I was lucky in the beginning. I got a really nice, a couple of really nice deals with some big groups that were looking to have that were into vinyl. And vinyl for me in China was a much easier situation than obviously chasing nitrile, but it got me into gloves. And then sometime in like June or July, I realized that I could no longer do everything. I couldn't be everything to anyone. And I had always promised myself after I sold my fashion company, because I'm telling you, at one point we had like a 500-page catalog that we did every 6 months, and it was grueling. And it was crazy to manage that amount of inventory and that many SKUs and have to meet that many minimum order quantities and bring in that much product. And so I promised myself, that's why I went into key account sourcing, so I just would deal with one thing. I kind of call it the inch wide and a mile deep theory. Like, you want to be really good, at something, pick a lane, I guess. Yeah. And you want to be really good at that inch and go a mile deep. I think we
had the exact same revelation, because I think it was 95% of the inquiries we were getting every day was gloves. It was nothing else but gloves. People didn't want masks. It just all of a sudden, no one wanted masks anymore.
Right.
And it was just.
And listen, because of the barrier of entry of the glove business and the inability for factories to expand production quickly, and a lot more people in the world, a lot more countries in the world getting switched on to gloves, and gloving becoming such a big deal during the pandemic, it created a much longer runway before supply was meeting demand. Yeah. And so that gave me the opportunity to kind of dig in and also think about a post-COVID strategy, because my business focus was always to look around the corner and say, I like this business. How am I going to stay in it when it's over? I mean, obviously,
well, that's the thing. That's what I wanted to talk to you about as well. It's a lot of the times my clients used to be distributors and brokers, and they did do quite well for quite a while, but then as it started to now become more of a normal industry and not a gold rush like it was, now we're starting to focus on the end user, and I think a lot of those distributors have gotten out, or they've gone into different products. Is it the same in the US? Have you found
Yeah, exactly the same. The noise has quieted down quite a bit, and I focus on one platform. I'm a LinkedIn guy, and I pretty much do, I don't do anything else. I've never been on Facebook or Twitter or any of that stuff. And so yes, the noise has definitely calmed down, and supply has come closer to meet demand, but there's some caveats in there that really need to be paid attention to. Navigating through those raindrops is kind of where I try to excel and try to think about.
Sure.
So while there's a lot more gloves that are coming into the U.S., the quality of those gloves are ridiculously questionable.
Yeah.
There's an enormous amount of blends that have been put in exam grade boxes. There are enormous amount of gloves with fake 510Ks. If you think back, and I asked somebody this question the other day, I said, if you think back to every glove brand that's been introduced over the last year that you've seen on LinkedIn or advertised anywhere, all these different names, can you tell me one that's really still around? I mean, there's the ones that were still around, that were always around.
And you're talking about the new brands that came on.
Yeah, you got one?
I would love to name a few, but I don't want to get in trouble.
All right, fair enough. So I won't name one either, but I'm just saying the ones that are out there now are the ones that were always out there. So the Cardinal, the Cranberry, the Heart of Leg, and the KCs that no one can get because they can't, the Ancels. Those were all deemed to be great gloves, and nobody knows why. No one can tell me why. they're not really that great a glove. Cranberry is less than a 2 mil glove. It's a dental glove. It's super
You
thin.
said 2 mil.
And why that became like the unicorn of gloves, or the you know, the top of the mountain to aspire to is ridiculous because nobody can really get them. They're crazy overpriced if you can.
Sure.
The same thing with, you know, KC500s. KC500 is a good glove, but it's ridiculously controlled by Halyard and distributors. And so is a dental glove. It's made by Top Glove out of Malaysia. Nothing really ridiculously special there. Go ahead.
With 510K, this is what I wanted to speak about as well, because we don't get this in the UK. We get EN374
Right.
and EN455,
Right.
which is like a European standard, which is changing because of Brexit. But 510K and chemo, why are they so essential in the US? Why does everyone love chemo? And 510K? Because to me,
510K was always
you don't need it. It's too good quality almost for what they're using it for a lot of the time.
So 510K, and some of this is my spitball, and some of it, you know, I know for sure. So 510K, you know, is a requirement for exam grade, and some hospital, it's not mandatory, but it is, you know, somewhat required by hospitals. That was waived very quickly in early days of COVID because it was impossible. Quite truly, there's only 148 factories in the world that have a 510K connected to their gloves. There's about 440 510Ks in the world, but like Heart-A-Lega owns like 60 of them.
Sure.
And Top Glove owns like 50 of them, and you know, Kosan owns like 30 of them. So they're, you know, some of those big numbers are deceiving because they're all owned by, you know, one factory, or controlled or OEM'd from one factory. They're also not, while they're transferable to a factory, they're not transferable to different gloves. You can't have an Ansel glove using you know, a KC 510K, but everybody's not paid attention to that.
Sure.
So that was kind of thrown out as a requirement in the early days because you couldn't get anything. So at that point, it was just ASTM 6319 in the US. And that's a very, very easy test to pass, and it's kind of the basics, the lowest bar.
I think we have that over here. I think we have that over here too. I think we have a similar one over here. ASTM, we have the same one.
Right.
That's what we use as well. FDA.
So, you know, that's a basic one. It's kind of like your 344, what is it?
You get 455 and 374.
Yeah, 455, yeah.
455 is the medical use, and then 374 is basically for use against microorganisms and viruses, basically. And 455 is just
right, so that's going to be the equivalent of the chemo.
Yeah.
So, you know, ASTM 6319 is a decent barrage of tests. It does the tensile strength, and it does the thicknesses at the palm and the fingertips. It does a water test with 500 gloves for you know, leaks and holes. It does a powder residue test and things like that. So it covers 7, 8 different, you know, important aspects. So that was enough in the beginning. And then what ended up happening is you started hearing, oh, people wanted chemo gloves. Everybody was asking for chemo rating. And there was no spike in cancer, obviously. It was just buyers were looking for one more bar to raise to make it harder for bad gloves to get in.
Right.
Because a lot of bad gloves were getting in with just that ASTM 63.
And when you say bad gloves, you mean blended gloves mostly?
Well, you know, there was used gloves, there was damaged gloves, there was really thin gloves, there was blend gloves. Just a lot of bad stuff was getting in. And so people raised the bar and said, oh, I need a chemo glove, because a chemo test is, you know, $12,000 to $20,000 depending on where you get it done. It takes like 3 or 4 weeks to get it done. It requires a much better glove if you're doing it, you know, real, and not testing it in some weird lab that you can pay X amount of dollars under the table to get any result you want. So they raised the bar and they said, okay, we're going to require chemo rating. And that also didn't do anything to stop the barrage of bad gloves, because people either just falsified chemo rating tests, or they paid dodgy labs in certain countries, you know, to get a chemo rating.
So do you think this is
or they used what they call golden gloves, where they take gloves, you know, buy a great set of gloves online, and on Amazon or something and send it to a lab. The labs don't do anything to check, the provenance of the gloves.
Sure.
Right?
So there was something about you said something about the test reports. I was going to just bring up. God, I've lost it now. Oh, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it was more about that's it. Pricing in the US. So I always when I'm looking at LinkedIn. I'm looking at these posts saying I've got gloves at $15, $16, and I'm looking at it thinking that's almost double the price of what we pay in the UK. And I'm just thinking this is too much. You speak to people all around the world, and you must know that in America it does cost more. Why is that? The import duty is 7%. That makes sense. But still, why is it so much compared to other countries? I mean,
look, it's the market will pay whatever the market will bear, and there was a feeding frenzy going on, and people bid this stuff up over a course of a couple of weeks, where it went from $10, $11 or $10 to $12, and all of a sudden for a few weeks it was up in the $14, $15, $16 range, and most of that was just an enormous amount of greed, an enormous amount of middlemen in the middle that really shouldn't have been there. Everyone with people's hands in their pockets. So in that transaction, there's a seller, a real seller, and a real buyer, and in between was all these people with their hands in their pockets. And it flew for a little while, but after a while it didn't. Again, going in between the raindrops, an enormous amount of people got their first couple of shipments in and realized they didn't have end buyers and really started panicking. And there's been some tax season write-offs. There's been some big Fortune 500 companies that loaded up on an enormous amount of a certain brand, and they started dumping it throughout the month of May because their fiscal year ended May 31st, and they wanted to write those all off as a loss. And so they spectacularly crashed the market. And then you had a lot of panic sellers that landed.
I wanted to talk about import numbers, because the big question on everyone's mind, I think, is the brokers are gone, a lot of them gone. The import numbers are interesting, though, that you put out. Is there still a shortage?
Yeah, I still think there's a shortage. I think there's a relative shortage. And let me qualify that. I think there's a shortage of good gloves that aren't blends. I think there's a tremendous amount of blends that are packed in exam grade boxes, scattered all over the place in the US and probably in Europe.
Sure.
So I think that number could be as high as 20%. I mean, I just know there's an enormous amount of those vinyl gloves getting shipped over to Thailand and Vietnam and being packed in China with exam grade boxes. So there's that. The second thing is that there's almost no consistency on brand. And so where I think buyers are weary is every time they have to go into the marketplace for more gloves, it's something different.
Sure.
It's a different glove to worry about. It's a different box to worry about. It's a different buyer and to worry about, a seller to worry about. And so there's a lot of inconsistency in the marketplace that has made the buyers very weary.
Sure.
And they've shied away from it as well. So,
and do you think that's to do with prices coming down too? Do you think blends have affected prices coming down?
Yeah, again, easy to sell blends at a cheaper price because you more than likely pay a much cheaper price for them. I can tell you that anybody in China offering in the 7s, in the 6s, if it's not a really long-term contract, that is definitely going to be a blend. There's just no possible way those prices are real. And again, if you look at the overall pricing, the target starts in Malaysia only because they are the most influential. They're doing probably the best gloves. Somebody can talk about imports. I will question the thickness on them.
Oh, really?
I don't want to bash them. I don't want to bash them, but yeah, I mean, I personally, if I can get a hold of a couple boxes, I'm going to send them to the ARDL lab and actually have them tested because I'm very curious.
Well, they're all over LinkedIn.
Maybe you should edit that out. But I am very curious. But
no, they're very active on LinkedIn. They're very active on LinkedIn. They're good at the
and
branding.
some big Fortune 500 companies have dumped a lot of their product in an effort to get a tax write-off, to take a loss on those on purpose.
Sure.
For a tax strategy.
Sure.
Right. So that's all fake. That's market manipulation. And let's just see what happens when it bounces back. I'm getting ready to do the May numbers, and I'm not seeing anything impressive. In April, China brought in about 3,500 containers filled with nitrile, and just this last month they're at about 1,800.
Oh, really?
Where Malaysia is actually up. They were at about 2,100. I think they're at about 2,900. And then for those people that think, Thailand and Vietnam are big producers into the U.S. Now look, I can't say what they're shipping into other countries, what their quantities are. All I can do is see what's happening in the U.S. But 98 containers came out of Vietnam last month. Like that's not very much at all. And I think I shipped 30 out of one factory.
Yeah.
The entire country shipped 98 containers into the U.S. And Malaysia and Thailand is not far above them, and I think somewhere around 128 containers. So, the majority of nitrile's coming out of Malaysia and China. And I'm just saying, people think I'm a China basher, but I'm just saying there's a lot of blends.
Well, I think we have a similar thing with market manipulation in the UK. It's slightly different here. We don't have we do have people selling at losses. We do have that as well. But one of the main problems we've got now is, you know what the NHS is in the UK, the National Health Service?
I do, yeah.
Similar to Canada, they've got free healthcare. So they provide a lot more than that though. So to a lot of care homes and hospitals now, they have something called the PPE portal, which means that anyone with a certain amount of staff, as long as it's not too big, can get free PPE. So they don't even need to buy it from distributors or suppliers or anything like that. Most of these government contracts, they've got supply contracts with factories and it's all sorted, right? So it's completely cut. So what happens is, a lot of the times these dentists, care homes, people that are registered under the NHS getting free PPE, they have too much, and they have often either friends or people that have called them up and asked them, suppliers of PPE, just like me and others in the UK, they go to these dentists and these care homes and they buy the free PPE that the government gave them for free. So these people are selling them for £2-3 a box to the suppliers, and then the suppliers go on our trade groups and go, we've got gloves at £6.50. Now that is awful, because our price from the factory, when I try and do these production, our price from the factory is £6.80 FOB. So it's almost like it's market manipulation. Yeah, it makes everyone think the price is dropping, but really, just like you said, other people selling at a loss, or it's fake. It's just it's all fake. So we have a similar thing. So I get it's
So the question is that's part of the frenzy of COVID and the frenzy of PPE. But you have to decide what kind of business you want to be in. Again, like I'm not in the COVID PPE business. I'm trying to develop a brand that's going to long outweigh that. And I found it happens to be in PPE, it happens to be in gloves. But if there's 40 or 50 million boxes of gloves coming into the US and being sold every month, why can't I be 2 million of that? With the right brand, with the right marketing strategy, with the right distribution, 100%. With the right pricing model. There's no reason why I can't cut into that market. The same in the industrial space. I think there's an enormous amount of room in the industrial space, and we just came out with an entire series of industrial gloves at the 6 and 8 mil level, because I don't think that all the factories switched to 4 mil or below exam grade blue, and nobody was focusing on the automotive industry, the tattoo industry, the meat packing, like all these.
We're doing tattoos.
6 and 8 mil.
That's what we're doing, tattoo parlors, yeah. Well, we touched on this briefly, but you sell mainly to distributors, do you? Other distributors? Or you sell to
yeah, mostly to distributors now, and we're trying to find our own path to end users, and they're starting to come to us.
Sure.
I had made some posts recently, over the last couple of months, is in a chaotic market, there's room for a lot of brokers and there's room for a lot of people with their hands out because it's chaotic and nobody knows how to get who the players are and how to get, the goods. And this was as chaotic a market as probably most have ever seen in this commodity. As that starts to dissipate and buyers and sellers find each other, they squeeze out the middleman. It's just the way it works. It's not anything to do with just gloves or anything to do with PPE or COVID. It's just any type of product market. When something new comes and there's demand, there's lots of opportunities for people to become middlemen and do things that a normal market would not tolerate. And now sellers and buyers are getting together. A message of, hey, I have a brand and I am a master distributor for a brand, and I can provide consistency on the brand and the price in the marketplace and serve these type of different businesses. That's a marketing strategy that goes beyond, COVID. So that's what a lot of people have to decide right now, and that's why there's an enormous amount of people that are exiting the market.
Well,
and
that's what
okay.
I mean.
Okay for them to go back.
Our distributor clients went down massively. We have to target end users now because the distributors they can go back to their normal supply chain, and it's easy for them to do that. Before it was an opportunity, like you said, for people to come in, build clients. Luckily, they got some great clients out of it.
George, my only question to those people should be like, so you're going back to the people that couldn't service you and didn't care about you and only took care of their biggest customers during the pandemic, and you're forgiving them for all of that. That's fine.
Never saw it like that.
Do that.
It's a good point.
But my point to them is, I was here and servicing you when you needed it most. And if I did a good job, I'd like to be considered to still get a piece of that action. For you to go back to these guys hat in hand after they completely, deer in the headlights, blew up the entire PPE industry worldwide,
Sure.
I think those people, listen, I put pressure on them for that, so for sure. But again, we just saw it recently, the way the PPE community that's here now jumped on like those oxygen concentrator opportunities in India.
Oh no, it makes me cringe. It makes me cringe, honestly. It's the same people I saw.
Right.
It was the same people I saw claiming to sell rubber gloves, and then walking around with these Fendi bags. And then now they're doing oxygen concentrators to India. It's like,
and I know exactly who you're talking about.
Don't, because I'll get in trouble again. But
I know exactly what you're talking about. But and then the same, some of the same people are reaching out to me, going, "Hey, I have vaccines." Like,
no, you don't. You don't have vaccines. No, you don't. Stop lying.
I'm not going to buy a vaccine from somebody that 3 months ago didn't know what one side of a thermometer was. I mean, like, how can you be selling that stuff?
I know.
Anyway, it's just it's sad, but it's also it's a classic.
But it's so obvious. It's so obvious. It's so obvious, which is why it's not really a massive issue. It's like the same as those 500 million things. They're so ridiculous that no one ever even. I don't know what the aim of those was. Which brings me to my. I want to talk about content to finish off, because you've done a lot of content over the last year.
Oh yeah, we kind of skipped over that.
Yeah, content massively. Firstly, why? Because I think I know why. Because you just create a great, internet unstable. I hope that stays. You created with the content. It's a sort of an authority figure, and I think that's partly why. Is that why? Is that?
You think it was deliberate?
I don't know. Maybe. Nothing's by accident in this sort of thing. I don't think. But it's good. It's good content, and that's why it is good, because it's pure. There's no. I don't really see much on LinkedIn from you saying about the 30 containers you're bringing in. It's mostly about the stuff that's wrong about the industry, which is why I think a lot of people go to you with. Even me, I come to you a few times now and said, "Oh, do you know anything about this brand? Or do you know anything about this guy? Can you vouch for him?" So I think a lot of that is important. So why did you get started in content? Yeah, what?
So originally, So I'm really transparent and try to be somewhat, authentic, and so I'll tell you the truth. Um, Originally, it was because what was going on LinkedIn was creating so much noise and false information that I couldn't do my business. That I had product and I had ability to get it to people at a decent price, with someone that, I'm nowhere near perfect, and I've done some videos. I've had my share of drama, but I can guarantee you when things go wrong, I don't run away. I'm still here. And anybody that has had any issues with me, getting them goods or getting their money back to them, whatever, will tell you that, it may not have been 100% pleasant, but I never left. I never hid. I never dodged emails, never dodged phone calls.
We've had that.
But the problem is that there was so much noise and nonsense being created in the marketplace that I couldn't get anyone to believe, that that's a completely different. This weird fantasy show over here that's going on isn't real. At the end of the day, you need a real hunter or a real product sourcer, somebody that understands logistics and talks about, containers and how to get them from A to B, and customs brokers and bonded import licenses and
I'm so lucky. I'm blessed I don't have to deal with any of this. I've got a partner that's so great, brings everything in the UK.
But
I do not envy you with that sort of thing.
Right, and it's really hard work, and so it was pissing me off that every time I talked to somebody about an opportunity, they'd refer to something stupid that they heard on LinkedIn that just wasn't in reality at all. And so I set out to try to, create some kind of an education platform for myself to I thought it would be a lot easier to clean up some of this stuff, because I thought, I'll call this out, 1 or 2 or 3 times and it'll be done. But, a year later, I'm still finding the same crap going on. But I did it particularly because I needed to document and to be able to show people, look, I know you think this is real. Look, I just did a video on this, or I just did proof on this. And so, I was trying for sure in the beginning to just throw, real facts and real numbers on it. This is what's being brought in. This is what a line can produce. This is how many lines this factory has. This is how this distribution model works for these guys. This is fake and this is why. This is fake and this is why. And prove everything from a data.
And did you get into trouble with any people by doing that? Did you ever get any? Because I've spoken to some people in this industry and they said they got death threats. They got for calling people.
You have no idea. Yeah, you have no idea what happens behind the scenes, and I've told people that. I've had some really crazy stuff show up at our door. I've had some phone calls. In the middle of the night, some of the stuff that I get on email, I've been threatened quite a lot, and it's because I followed a lot of crap. And now I have my an entire gang of haters, which is kind of enjoyable.
Kill Doug Stein. I wouldn't worry too much. They're all the way.
Originally it was all.
I was going to say, I wouldn't worry too much. They're all the way over in fuck knows where land. Tweeting and WhatsApping groups and whatever. So I wouldn't worry too much.
So, anyway, I started for that reason, was to calm the noise down and try to get some truth out to the marketplace. And then it just kind of got a hold, it just kind of, spun out and kind of took a life of its own. And I felt the need to continue to put out content. And I felt the need, for whatever reason, to be this Nitro Cop guy that I should have probably never done. But I found I was pretty good at it too. Yeah. I didn't know I was good at it. And I learned a lot about gloves because I am a thread puller and I like to learn. And truth be told, it's not that freaking complicated of a product. Every once in a while, I try to back people down to earth and go, for Christ's sakes, it's a rubber glove. Yeah. It's not like, we're not, sending people off to Mars.
We're reading 63-page documents on this same product sometimes, looking for, 63 pages.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Some of the fraud stuff. And that's the thing is people will go, I don't know how you can get caught up with fraud. Let me tell you, if you're dealing from a price, from a place, and I think David Lawrence, my friend in Thailand, my lawyer friend in Thailand now, he had brought this up. It's like, your expectations is not to be dealing with criminals all the time. Like, I don't know about you, but I never, it wasn't part of my life was, every step of doing business with everyone was thinking about how they were going to rip me off and steal everything from me. So you have this level of expectation that people are decent,
Yeah.
And it turns out they're not.
No.
And it turns out that they're smarter than most honest people, and they've moved the goalposts. They've moved different scams along the way. If people start figuring them out, they leap to another one. They change a nuance. They change, now they're doing these smaller scams, instead of offering 10.
I saw your rap.
I
saw your rap. Yeah, it's great.
Don't even ask me how I got into that. It's just that,
He's a hip-hop
I'll do
man.
anything for views.
He's a hip-hop man.
But yeah, so and you asked me, do I get asked to vet suppliers? I get it so much you have no idea. It just takes an enormous amount of time.
I can imagine.
And
but
I
that
don't
does
mind
build a
doing
lot
it,
of does build a lot of credibility for you, I suppose, because maybe if that doesn't go through, they'll probably come back to you and ask you for gloves.
And that's happened plenty of times.
I bet.
And there's been a lot of I told you so's.
Sure.
I was talking to one of my friends, Mark Russo, and I was saying, what really drives me crazy is I'll get somebody that will come to me, and I'm vetting a new crazy goofy brand for them every week.
Yeah.
They're coming to me behind the scenes, and every once in a while I just go, what are you looking for?
You know how many times I've seen that Guyan brand? You know that we'll bleep that out. That brand you talk about, Guyan, or is it Guyan? You know how many times I've seen that in the UK? That box. A lot. In these groups I see pallets and pallets of the stuff.
Yeah.
They obviously sell quite a lot.
They do sell quite a lot. They just pick and choose who they're going to steal from.
Sure.
And there's a couple of different divisions too. And so, one of their parts of their factory is somewhat legit, and another guy that's got a hold of another big part of their factory is just an unbelievable criminal. Unbelievable.
I want to talk
But I
about
will tell you, they have no factory that's all being done with
repack.
very questionable repack.
Sure. So there was something about someone placed an order and then they couldn't get it, and then they asked for more money to get it, and then they wouldn't deliver until they sent more money.
Yeah, they have a couple of different scams, but most of it's ransom stuff. They just never let you get out of an order. So you place an order for 4 containers, and they'll give you 3, and then they'll ask you for the balance of the 4th one before you even got the inspection on it, and you'll go, I'm gonna wait for the inspection. Well, when you're placing another order, I don't have another order. You really need to place another order. I can't place another order. I don't have another order to place. Well, we lost money on that order because we thought you were going to be a long-term customer, and we lost money on those first 4 containers. And so if you want to get your 4th container, you need to go back and pay us 30 cents more a box for all 4 of your containers.
Wow.
And you'll be like, I'm absolutely not going to do that. Well, then we can't give you your 4th container, and we can't give you your deposit back.
Wow.
Or you can place a new order at the same price.
That's
And
surely
so you
can't
go
be
down
legal.
this road. You go down this road of unbelievability, right? You go down this road of going like, yeah, listen, that just can't be true. That's you signed a contract at this price. I'm certainly not gonna go back and give you 30 cents more a box for stuff that you've already delivered, and I need that last container, or I need my deposit back, and they just go, no, not gonna happen.
Where's people's
It's
words
just,
gone?
and they've done.
People just don't stick to their
Or
words.
they'll say, what they did to one guy is he got like 6 containers out of them, and then he said, they said, well, you need to order another 10 containers, or we can't give you the last 2. And he fell for it, and he ordered nitrile from them at $12.95 a box, FOB China,
Wow.
right before Chinese New Year. And he gave them a deposit on 10 containers, do the math. $12.95, 30%, 10 containers,
A lot.
$1 million plus. And they never shipped them one.
And what's
Another
happening
guy
now? I
in
don't get how
6
they can
months
get away
to
with it. I don't get how you can get away with that.
Right, and so super frustrating because we've had police involved, we've had lawyers involved, the police won't do anything. They say it's not a criminal deal, it's a contract breach. And so for foreigners to sue in China, it's really, really a drawn out and fairly expensive process.
Wow.
I only lost a small amount to these idiots. And it's enough where.
Oh, you dealt with them?
That's very bothersome.
You dealt with Guyan?
Huh?
You dealt with
yeah, I did.
those who shall not be named?
Yes,
Wow.
I did.
Wow. And
Yeah,
you lost money?
I did.
You lost
But
money?
I lost very little, but
Okay.
yeah, I lost about 180 grand.
Oh, so
I just walked away. I just walked away from the last container. But for me, it was not enough money to go after some crazy lawsuit, but it was enough to piss me off that I wanted to kind of destroy them on LinkedIn.
my partner had a really, really tough time.
And there's like 5 or 6 other people that have come out of the woodwork with just unbelievable stories. One guy lost 5 million. One guy lost almost $1 million. One guy lost 600,000. One guy just emailed me the other day. He just got his first container, and he ordered nitrile, and he got a full container of extra large vinyl.
What? I just honestly don't see how they can do this. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. Honestly, it does. Wow. I mean, my partner had a similar sort of experience. Again, I'll edit this out. There's a company called your mate John used to work for him, actually. He was doing distribution for him, and he lost a bit of money with them, unfortunately, which I spoke to him about.
Who did, John?
John, yeah, apparently, yeah. So we were working with the UK distributor of this brand, and they said you can do a container order. We had a container order from someone, so we were like, great, we'll just line it up. This is Chris, not me, my partner. So he gives them the deposit. I think it was 50% times. I think it was like 125 grand, something like that. Placed the order. They said, great, we've shipped it out. A month later, after not answering the phone for a long time ago, we've had mistakes. Basically what happened is they sold it to someone else, but they didn't tell us. Sold it to someone else, and they said, we've still got your deposit, so we'll deliver your gloves still, just wait another month and they'll be there. We went, all right, sweet. Didn't have any other gloves, and there was a huge shortage at this point. This was like January to March time, so this was a shortage. And they said they shipped the goods out by sea this time. By sea this time, and they sent us a bill of lading, right? But with redacted information for the lading number, for obvious reasons, because obviously the full balance wasn't paid. So they've sent us this bill of lading. He's about your age, tiny bit younger, so he's not as tech savvy as someone like anyone else. So I took the Word document.
Younger is what you're trying to say.
Younger. Someone who's a bit younger, and I took the document, and all I had to do was put it into Word and drag the black box away from the letters, and I got the bill of lading number.
Yeah, it's so funny how you can unredact some of these with a PDF editor, almost any of them.
They're just some of them are thick, some of them. But so I called the logistics company on the bill of lading, and I said, where's this container? We've been chasing this for the last month or two. They said, that's a fake bill of lading number. You've been sent a fake bill of lading. We went crazy. I called the brand, and no answer. Surprise, surprise. Called everyone in that company that worked there. None of them answered. Nothing happened. A month goes by. We're told we're tracking the vessel, because there was a tracking number on the vessel. The vessel got to Southampton. I think someone actually went down to Southampton to go and see if anything had arrived. Then the vessel left Southampton on the tracking. Nothing had been dropped off. So we called the brand again, and no answer. A week goes by. They finally send an email saying, sorry, we've been scammed. We don't know what's going on. We've been scammed. We've been sent fake bill of ladings. We've been sent fake air bills, fake everything, right? So we're like, okay, fine. See if you can still deliver the glove. We're going to make it up to you. We're going to ship them out by air this time, right? And we're going to send you a flight number that you can track, and it's all going to be there in the next week. So we go, great. They get the confirmation that it's apparently flown away. We speak to this great logistics company in England, and they're completely transparent with us, and they tell us exactly what's going on. They go, the brand has placed the order with the logistics company. It's all legitimate. The actual air bill was here. It's a proper flight booked. Cargo's just not been picked up yet. So we're waiting for the cargo to be picked up. Never gets picked up, obviously. The client then
rings the logistics company, cancels his booking for collection, and we get a letter in the post saying this company's gone into administration, which in the UK is
It's bankruptcy.
yeah, you've gone bust. So they've got this deposit, my partner, sorry, of about 125, 127 grand, something like that, disappeared off the face of the earth. So it happens, stuff like that happens, you know. I think we were lucky that he only lost that much. You know, I know there's people that placed much bigger orders with them and probably fucked up way worse than we did. So there's bad people doing this.
I mean, there's, you know, the landscape is littered with those stories, and some of them are very big. I get stuff every week. Some of it is ridiculously sad. You know, one woman I think she had like $150,000, and her fiance put it all into a glove deal, and it was everything they had saved for their wedding.
Oh no.
I mean, that's sad.
Well, I mean, that is very sad, but why would you? I mean, that is a bit foolish as well.
You know, look, everybody saw a Wild Wild West heyday. You know, there was people that thought they were going to be multimillionaires overnight. There's still people.
Hey, me and you both, Doug.
I get
Start
intervention.
the pandemic.
One thing that gets weird with me, my wife just thinks it's crazy. She's a social worker, so she listens to me talking to people sometimes on the phone late at night. But I get, you know, once every couple of weeks, I'll get somebody that'll ask me if I'll do. It's basically an intervention. I'll get somebody that says, you know, you need to talk to my father, or you need to talk to my sister, or you need to talk to my friend. They're losing everything, and they just won't stop.
I know people.
And it's 18 hours a day, and they're losing. You know, they haven't slept, and they're mind numb.
It's these WhatsApp groups. It's these late night WhatsApp chats. These late night WhatsApp chats are not healthy for anyone. I don't think I've ever closed a deal on a late night WhatsApp chat. It's always been a straightforward company to company in the day, 9 to 5.
Yeah. I stopped at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
7 to 9 for me is Malaysia and China time. 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 to 9 is China, Malaysia time, and then the rest of it is you know, U.S. business or European business.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't do any of that, but I have done 3 or 4 or 5 interventions in the last 6 or 7 months. I don't know if I do any good, but you know, I always start with the facts. I always start with, this is how many gloves are made every year. This is where they come from. This is how many boxes. This is how many boxes a month. This is where they go to. So you see how none of this can work. This is how much gets produced in a line. This is how much, you know, this is how many lines would have to be made, have to be existing, you know, for order for you to get any of these type of things you're thinking about. And I try to do it all with data and math and get them, you know, all the way down to where they go. And I've had some of them go, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And they'll tell me all sorts of scary secret things being brought in with satellites and.
I see that Pasha Shahid, is that you know her, Pasha Shahid?
Mm-hmm.
Of course you know her. She's everywhere on LinkedIn. I don't know where she's been quiet recently.
Reading gloves.
But fair play to her. Anyway, she helps out brokers, doesn't she? She donates $500 to poor brokers that are struggling.
She's done that before, absolutely.
It's great.
She's
That's
done
great.
It before. And like she was a legitimate mover and shaker, and she still is.
She is. I watched her from. I think you mentioned her in a post at the start, and I followed her, and I watched her run around just warehouses brokering and doing just taking videos and then just being enthusiastic. And then 6 months later, I see she's got an office with 10 people. She's got a call center. She's got her own brand of gloves. She's doing. I want to get her on the show and talk to her a little bit. I think she's really interesting what she's done.
She's a spitfire, and you know, another really good person that's been, you know, banned off of LinkedIn forever.
Yeah. Because
she put too many posts up about selling. That's why, you know, that's again, my reason to be on LinkedIn isn't to sell stuff. It's to mostly educate and to show my expertise in the area, so that when people do come to me for business, they understand that, you know, I have some history, I have some background in it. I don't, you know.
Well, a lot of our business did come from LinkedIn, and it's now shifting towards more than just the day to day, and just the standard cold calling, marketing, standard normal companies, and it's come away from that. So I agree with that. I want to finish off just by talking about your plans, because I know you work with prints. We didn't touch too much on prints, and we didn't touch at all on prints. But I want to know your plans for the next year, the next 2 years.
Yeah. So
obviously, you're going to carry on your content. Hopefully, you carry on your content.
Yeah, so, I still want to be, if anybody's willing to listen, and, I may shift some of it a little bit, adjusting. I may shift stuff a little bit away from PPE and just talk about, business and entrepreneurship in general, branding, marketing, which I think is all kind of part of it. So, I do some different content now and again already, but I still want to continue to be a voice in the PPE business, one way or another, if it's still there and still powerful. And for me, from a business standpoint, I really like the glove business. I think it's fascinating. It's the exact type of business that I like. It's very narrow in scope. I'm just dealing with gloves, whether it's vinyl, TPE, nitrile, blend, whatever, latex. So I like that. There's a need for it. So, my goal is to build a brand and continue to market it and be a consistent.
And just to confirm, for everybody at home, just to confirm, that brand is Prince Premium?
It is Prince Premium. It is Prince Premium Plus. Prince Premium Plus. Say that 5 times fast.
They seem like a really good brand. They seem like a really good brand. Well, I spoke to GIS originally because someone referred me to them, to GIS, because we were going to do a deal with them. It ended up falling through, but they seem like a great company. It seems like a really good quality glove too.
What I'm drawn to is their team and their family. Dato Morale, who is the CEO of the company, I just connect with him really well. I mean, I talk to him. He's a really smart business guy. He's very transparent. Like, he knows his warts. He accepts responsibility. I've dealt with a lot of factory owners over my years, a lot. And I'm drawn to him. He's intelligent. He wants to grow his brand. He wants to grow his business. He's open to other people's ideas. We just get along. And so I want to do big business with the people I get along with. I deal with, a lot of vinyl factories in China. I don't want to know the owner. I don't want to have a relationship with him. I don't want to work with them to grow their business for whatever reason. But with Dato, there's a kinship there. So I can't wait until travel ban is lifted and I can go and, spend a week there with him. I just like the guy. And so I want, you get to a certain age where you just go, look, I just want to do business with people I like. I like Dato, and he's malleable to my ideas, and he's let me, do a lot of things that he didn't want to do in the beginning, as far as changing his box and changing his branding, and now we're doing industrial, and now we're doing OEM and stuff, and so I like working with business.
People genuinely don't believe me when I say I like PPE because of the relationships. It's not really the money that excites me about it too much. Right. I genuinely have hour-long conversations with the same people every week. They're my suppliers and my partners,
right.
And it all works. It's not about the money at all. The fact that I could save a
you're
pound
exactly
box,
right about it. There is something.
Going to someone
There
else.
is something about this business, right? I've met tons of people from Europe and South Africa and Macedonia and all sorts of places, India and Egypt and Dubai and people from all over the U.S. and Canada. And so I've met so many people around the world. It's just been fascinating. I think it's a cool business.
It's a great business.
So I have a lot of fun with it, as goofy as it is. I don't know how you have fun with it. It's like, I think I put it on my About Us page on our website. It's like, I never dreamed of growing up to become, a nitrile importer. Who would ever think of that?
What do you want to be when you grow up, son? I want to sell rubber gloves.
I want to sell rubber gloves. Are you kidding me? It's every boy's dream. But it's interesting. I like it. It's fun.
Well, listen, thank you so much for your time, Doug. I think we've got a good...
Oh, George, it was a pleasure. I know we talked for a while. I kept you up late. It was a pleasure, and you know, I love going back and forth with you. And I love seeing, like I said this before too, I love seeing young people in this business, young people in any business, and young people have become so entrepreneurial, and they really attack PPE. There's just really some really good.
Is there a lot of young people in the US doing PPE then?
Yeah, there's a lot of young folks in the US that have gotten into PPE.
I think I'm the youngest in the UK doing it. I don't know if there's. I'm 21. I think I'm definitely.
Definitely. You're one of the youngest I've met. But I met a kid up in Traverse City, Michigan. I think he's around 21 or 22, just doing a great job. But look, you know, it's nice to see young entrepreneurs. It really is.
Well, I appreciate that.
So I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it.
Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot.
Cheers,
Best of luck to you, and I'm sure you know we talk.
100%. 100%.
Take care.
I'm sure you'll be back. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye bye.